What happens when one of television's most charming hosts decides he's done with rehearsed answers and takes on one of the most polarizing figures in modern royalty? What you're about to see is the night Graham Norton dropped the charm and delivered a brutal masterclass in unfiltered journalism. A moment that left Meghan Markle rattled, and the audience in complete silence. But before we dive into this explosive clash, make sure you subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think really happened that night. Trust me, every second of this exchange matters. For years, the Graham Norton Show has been a safe haven for celebrities. Red sofa, easy banter, a glass of wine, laughter guaranteed. But the evening Meghan Markle walked out onto that stage, everything felt different. From the start, the tension was unmistakable. Graham, usually the king of warmth, carried himself differently. Calm, calculated, but colder than usual. Meghan, flawless in a navy blazer, sat upright, hands folded, smile polished. Then Graham leaned in with that lilting Irish voice. "So, Meghan, you're here tonight to talk about your new podcast. But there's something I've been wanting to ask. Something I think our viewers deserve to hear honestly." Meghan's smile flickered, then reset. "Of course, Graham. I'm always happy to answer questions." "Are you, though?" Graham cut in, his eyes narrowing. "Because I've interviewed thousands of people, politicians, actors, royalty, and I know the difference between authenticity and rehearsed talking points." The room froze. This was not the Graham Norton Show the audience had come for. Meghan shifted slightly, voice careful. "I'm not sure I understand what you're implying. I've always been authentic." Graham's laugh was sharp, humorless. "Authentic? From where I'm sitting, it looks like you stick to a narrative, no matter the question." Her voice rose a notch. "That's not fair. I've been under relentless scrutiny. I've always tried to be honest." "Have you, though?" Graham pressed, leaning closer. "Because I've studied your interviews. I've read the transcripts. I've analyzed the patterns. And what I see is someone who's mastered the art of saying a lot without saying anything." The audience was locked in, silent. Meghan's carefully crafted calm began to crack. "I think you're being unfair," she said, her voice unsteady. "I've been very open about my struggles." "Open, yes," Graham replied evenly, "but vague about your role in them. And I've noticed something, Meghan. In every story you tell, no matter the context, you manage to make yourself the victim." Her eyes flashed. "That's not appropriate. You don't know what it's like to be in my position." "Don't I?" Graham shot back. "I've interviewed people who faced real persecution, real hardship, and I can tell the difference between genuine suffering and someone who's turned suffering into a brand." The words landed like a blow. Meghan's voice dropped to a whisper. "That's incredibly hurtful. I never asked for this attention. I never wanted the spotlight." Graham laughed, this time in disbelief. "You never wanted the spotlight? Meghan, you were an actress. You married into the most famous family on earth. You've given interviews, signed media deals, written books, hosted podcasts. Every move has kept you in the spotlight." "That's not true," she protested, but her voice lacked strength. "Isn't it?" Graham pressed. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've built a career out of grievance. And I have to ask, at what point does seeking justice become exploiting tragedy?" The silence was deafening. Meghan's mask slipped. Her hands, once neatly folded, clenched into fists. Her voice trembled as she fought back tears. "You're being cruel," she whispered. "I've only ever tried to handle everything with grace and dignity." "Grace and dignity," Graham repeated, his tone hardening. "Is that what you call it when you air private family matters in public? When you make accusations that can't be answered? When you chip away at an institution that's been part of this country for centuries?" The confrontation had reached a boiling point. Cameras zoomed in, catching every flicker of Meghan's expression, every shimmer of unshed tears. The audience sat frozen, half enthralled, half horrified. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," Meghan said, her voice trembling now. "I was just trying to tell my truth." "Your truth," Graham echoed slowly, rolling the words on his tongue. "Not the truth, your truth, as if facts are clay to be molded into whatever story suits you best." The line struck like a slap. Meghan flushed, her polished calm finally slipping. She straightened, anger flashing. "How dare you question my integrity? You have no idea what I've endured. No idea what it's like to live under a microscope, where every word, every gesture is twisted." "Actually, I do," Graham replied evenly. His voice softened, but it cut even deeper. "I'm gay, Meghan. I came out when it could have ended my career. I've faced real discrimination, real prejudice. Do you know what I didn't do? I didn't make victimhood my brand." The comparison landed like a gut punch. Meghan's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no quick retort. "That's completely different," she finally managed. "Is it?" Graham asked, head tilted. "We both face challenges, but I let my work speak for me. You've built a stage around your suffering and made it your centerpiece. I have never made victimhood my identity," Meghan snapped, her voice rising. "I've used my platform to speak out, to fight injustice." "Positive change?" Graham's eyebrow arched. "What tangible good have you actually done, Meghan? Because from where I'm sitting, I see division, headlines, controversy, not results." The question lingered in the silence like a verdict. Meghan opened her mouth, then faltered. I've raised awareness," she said at last, the conviction gone from her voice. "Awareness." Graham repeated the word with a bitter laugh. "The favorite refuge of celebrities who want credit without doing the work. Tell me, what exactly have you raised awareness of? That it's hard being a millionaire in a California mansion? That royal protocol feels like oppression? That's not fair," Meghan protested, but the tears in her eyes betrayed her unraveling composure. "Not fair?" Graham leaned forward now, his tone sharper, relentless. "I've heard you complain about not being able to go out for brunch. I've heard you equate ceremonial restrictions with torture. I've heard you compare yourself to people who face real oppression. And frankly, it's insulting." "I never compared myself to them," Meghan said, her voice wavering. "Didn't you?" Graham shot back. "Because I remember the parallels you drew. That's where you lost me, Meghan. That's where your story turned from personal struggle into exploitation of other people's pain." The tears finally spilled, streaking her flawless makeup. She whispered, broken, "I never meant to exploit anyone. I was just trying to be honest about my experiences." "Honest?" Graham's voice sharpened to a blade. "Let's talk about honesty, about the stories that shift, the details that evolve, the omissions that appear when convenient. I've done my research, Meghan, and your accounts don't always match." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" she asked, though her voice carried the weight of someone who already knew. "I'm talking about this." Graham reached beside his chair and lifted a neat stack of papers. "Transcripts, several of your interviews, and the inconsistencies are fascinating." He flipped the pages, the sound amplified by the silence in the room. "Shall I read them out?" Meghan's face drained of color. She shook her head quickly, almost desperately. I don't think that's necessary," she whispered. "Oh, but I do." Graham's voice hardened, a scalpel in the dark, because the public deserves to see how carefully curated every part of your persona really is. Every line, every gesture, every tear. Her composure shattered completely. She leaned forward, pleading now, voice breaking. "Please, please don't do this." "Don't do what?" Graham asked, his smile finally returning. But it wasn't kind this time. It was the smile of a man who knew he had complete control of the room. Graham leaned forward, his expression softening for the first time. But his words remained unflinching. "Then that's the tragedy, Meghan. Not that the world has been cruel to you, though it has, at times, but that somewhere along the way, You accepted this role so completely that you don't know how to set it down. You've mistaken pain for identity. You've mistaken sympathy for love. The silence in the studio was suffocating. Cameras zoomed in tight, catching every flicker of anguish across her face. Meghan's mascara streaked down her cheeks, her eyes wide and hollow, as if Graham had spoken aloud the truth she'd been running from. I'm not pretending," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Everything I've said, everything I've fought for, it's real to me." "Of course it's real to you," Graham replied quietly. "That's why it's so convincing. But real doesn't mean right. Real doesn't mean fair. And it doesn't mean the rest of the world must accept your version without question." Meghan's lips parted as if to respond, but no words came. Her chest heaved with uneven breaths, each inhale louder than the last, her body betraying the collapse of her composure. Finally, she whispered, broken and childlike, "I just wanted to be safe." Graham's eyes lingered on her, neither triumphant nor cruel, only steady. "And yet," he said, voice low but carrying to every corner of the room, "you've built your entire life on stepping into the storm. That's not safety, Meghan. That's choosing the fire, and then begging the world to believe you've been dragged into it." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Meghan buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably now. The audience sat frozen, the weight of the moment pressing down on them, aware they had just witnessed not an interview, but a dismantling, layer by layer, until nothing remained but raw, unguarded truth. It was perhaps the most honest thing she had said the entire night, and Graham seemed to recognize it. For the first time, his sharpness gave way to a flicker of compassion, the version of him his audience had grown to trust. "That's the real tragedy," he said softly. "You've become so invested in the performance that you've forgotten the person underneath it. You're no longer Meghan. You're the story you've built around yourself, and now you don't know how to step outside it." "I'm scared," Meghan admitted, her voice small, almost childlike. "I'm scared that if I'm not the victim, then I'm nothing. If I admit I was wrong, then it all collapses." Graham leaned forward, gentler now but still unyielding. "That's the prison, Meghan. You've convinced yourself your worth depends on suffering, that your entire identity is chained to grievance. But that isn't true. It's never been true." Her eyes glistened as she looked at him, raw and unguarded. "Then what am I supposed to do?" "You start by telling the truth," Graham said simply. "Not your version of the truth, not a polished script, the truth. You start by admitting the choices you've made, the role you've played in creating the chaos you've spent years blaming others for." "I don't know if I can," Meghan whispered. "You can," Graham answered. "But only if you want to. Only if you're willing to stop hiding behind the safety of being a victim and face the harder reality that you've been part of the problem all along." The studio was silent, the audience suspended in the tension of a moment that no longer felt like television, but something far more human. "I'm tired," Meghan said finally, her voice cracking. "Tired of fighting, tired of defending, tired of being angry all the time." "Then stop," Graham said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "Stop fighting battles that don't exist. Stop creating enemies you don't need. Stop making everything about your grievances. And if I do that, what's left?" Her words trembled, exposing her completely. "What's left," Graham replied, "is the chance to rediscover who you are, the chance to build instead of destroy, the chance for peace instead of constant performance." Meghan sat in silence, tears still sliding down her cheeks, but her breathing steadying. The cameras caught everything. Her collapse, her rawness, her flicker of uncertainty. "I don't know if I remember how to be anyone else," she whispered. "Then learn," Graham said softly. "Start small. Start with honesty. Start with responsibility. Start by admitting that maybe, just maybe, you've been wrong. And in that moment, the celebrity mask crumbled. What remained wasn't a duchess, or a brand, or a headline. It was simply a human being, exhausted and exposed. Whether it was the beginning of genuine change, or just another chapter in an endlessly unfolding saga, no one could say. But for the first time, the world had seen Meghan Markle without her armor. The confrontation that began with Graham Norton's cutting questions had become something else entirely. A reckoning, a moment of truth that broke through the polished surface of celebrity television. Whether it marked a turning point, or merely another dramatic scene in an ongoing spectacle, only time would tell. What do you think about this extraordinary confrontation? Was Graham Norton right to push Meghan Markle to this breaking point? Or did he cross a line that no interviewer should ever cross? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more incredible moments like this one. What would you have asked Meghan Markle if you were in Graham Norton's chair?